Staff Sergeant Lisa Ray had survived 3 long tours in Iraq, earned 2 Bronze Stars, and held the unit record for confirmed sniper kills. She had been shot at, blown up, and left for dead more than once. But nothing in her career prepared her for what was waiting inside Conference Room B at Fort Adams. She thought she was walking into a routine evaluation with her new commanding officer. Instead, the moment she opened the door, she froze. The air in the room felt heavy, charged, like the seconds before a roadside bomb went off. 6 men were already there. 5 of them were soldiers, huge, broad-shouldered, and standing in a half circle like they'd been waiting for her. The 6th was Colonel Frank Miller, a man whose reputation for pushing women out of combat roles was well known across the base. His face wore a smile, but his eyes were cold. "Sergeant Ray," Miller said, his voice smooth but full of something fake. "Please, sit. We need to discuss your future with this unit." Lisa stayed standing. Her instincts were screaming at her. She'd learned to read a room in seconds during combat, and this felt wrong, very wrong. "With respect, sir," she replied, her voice calm, "I prefer to stand. What exactly are we discussing?" Miller's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. He began pacing slowly around her like a wolf testing the distance before a strike. "Your combat effectiveness has been questioned. Some believe your medals may have been given for political reasons." The words hit Lisa like a slap. She thought of Lieutenant Paul Scott, whose life she'd saved with a 400-yard shot under enemy fire. She remembered dragging a wounded soldier to safety in Fallujah while bullets cracked overhead. Every medal she had earned in blood. "My record speaks for itself, sir." "Records can be misleading," Miller cut in. "We need to see your current, real-world effectiveness." He gestured toward the 5 soldiers watching her. Lisa quickly scanned them. Sergeant Bill Harris, a former college linebacker, massive and thick-necked. Corporal Mark Allen, a powerlifter who looked like he could lift a car. Sergeant Tom Baker, an ex-football player with a permanent scowl. Corporal Jim Carter, a wrestling champion with perfect balance. Private Luke Torres, an MMA fighter with dangerous, steady eyes. "He has doubts about your ability to handle real opponents," Miller said. Lisa's grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." This wasn't about testing her. This was about humiliating her. "What exactly are you proposing, sir?" she asked. "A simple demonstration," Miller replied. "Hand-to-hand combat, you against these 5, just to see if you belong in the field." Harris cracked his knuckles. "Don't worry, Sergeant," he said with a smirk. "We'll go easy on you." Lisa kept her face neutral. Inside, she was already breaking them down. How they stood, how they breathed, where their weight shifted. Harris was top-heavy. Allen favored his left side. Baker's right knee seemed stiff. Carter stayed low like a wrestler. Torres was the real threat. "One condition," Miller added, "you surrender all your gear, sidearm, tactical equipment, and your rifle." Lisa's eyes flicked to her sniper rifle, the weapon she'd carried through every mission. Giving it up felt like cutting off her own arm. "With respect, sir, that doesn't seem fair." "Those are the terms. Or perhaps a transfer to something more suitable, logistics, maybe." The threat was clear: fight or lose her career. Lisa looked at the 5 soldiers, then at Miller, back to her rifle. Slowly, she unslung it and placed it on the table. The metal hit the wood with a solid clank. She removed her sidearm, her knife, her tactical vest. Each piece she set down felt like a layer of protection being stripped away. But with each one gone, something else grew inside her, a cold, sharp focus. "Gentlemen," she said softly, her voice carrying just enough edge to make Harris shift uneasily, "I hope you're ready." Outside, soldiers were already starting to gather in the hallway, sensing something was about to happen. Inside, the 5 men moved slightly closer, and the air in the room tightened. Miller stood by the wall, pulling out his phone to record. Lisa took one slow breath. If this was the fight they wanted, then she would give them one they would never forget.
The conference room didn't feel like a meeting space anymore. It felt like an arena. The dull hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound. Lisa stood in the center, 5 large men forming a loose circle around her. She wasn't the biggest, she wasn't the heaviest, but she had something none of them had: 15 years of real combat experience and the ability to read a fight before it even started. Miller's voice cut through the silence. "You have 90 seconds, Sergeant. Prove your skills." 90 seconds. Lisa almost smiled. She'd need less. Her eyes flicked from one man to the next. Harris bounced on his toes, all muscled but slow. Allen stood like a tree, strong but rooted in place. Baker's jaw was tight, and she could see him favoring his right knee. Carter stayed low, waiting for a grab. Torres moved with calm precision, watching her center of mass. He was the only one treating this seriously. Miller raised his hand like a referee about to start a match. "Begin." The moment his hand dropped, Harris charged. All 280 pounds of him came forward like a runaway truck. Lisa stepped sideways at the last possible moment, letting his own momentum carry him past her. As he stumbled, she slammed her shoulder into his lower back and hooked his ankle. The giant went airborne, crashing across the conference table with a deafening bang. Papers and pens flew. Harris groaned. 12 seconds gone, 4 men left. Allen and Baker moved next, coming from opposite sides to trap her. Allen swung a heavy punch at her head, but Lisa ducked low, slipping inside his guard. Her palm struck his solar plexus with pinpoint accuracy. He staggered, gasping, his body refusing to breathe. Baker came in from behind, aiming to tackle her. Lisa's foot swept his bad knee in a clean arc. His yell filled the room as he collapsed, clutching his leg. 21 seconds down, 3 left. Outside in the hallway, soldiers pressed closer to the doorway, murmuring in disbelief. Carter finally saw his opening. He lunged, shooting low for her legs in a perfect wrestling takedown. Lisa stepped forward into him, grabbing his arm, spinning and flipping him clean over her hip. He slammed into the wall and slid down in a daze. 29 seconds down, 2 left. Torres was the danger she'd been waiting for. He circled carefully, feinting high, then shooting low for her ankle. Lisa raised her leg just in time, and as he bent forward, her knee met his face in a brutal, perfect strike. The sound was sickening. Torres dropped, unconscious. 41 seconds. All 5 men were down. Lisa straightened, her breathing steady, uniform barely wrinkled. Around her, the so-called strongest soldiers groaned on the floor or leaned against the walls. Harris stayed slumped on the broken table, now watching her with something like respect. The room was silent except for heavy breathing and the faint ticking of Miller's timer. He stared at his phone, then at Lisa, then at the wreckage of his plan. Lisa broke the silence. "Sir, should I continue the demonstration, or is that enough?" Miller didn't answer. His jaw moved, but no words came. Harris laughed first, a real laugh, not the mocking one from earlier. "Holy hell, I just got thrown by someone half my size." He shook his head in disbelief. "Ma'am, where did you learn to fight like that?" Lisa helped Torres sit up, checking his pupils. "My grandmother taught me Aikido when I was 5. My dad taught me boxing when I was 12. The Corps taught me the rest. And a lot I learned from people who wanted to kill me." Allen finally caught his breath. "That thing you did to my chest, I thought I was dying." "Pressure strike," she said simply. "Temporary. Learned it from a combat medic in Fallujah." More soldiers were now crowding into the room. Someone whispered, "They're saying this is going live right now." Lisa's eyes darted toward the door. She saw phones raised, recording. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't going to stay in this room. This fight was already becoming something bigger. Captain Laura White stepped inside, phone in hand, smiling. "Sergeant Ray," she said, "you might want to know, this video's already got over 50,000 views. The Defense Headquarters wants to talk to you. The Office of the Defense Chief wants to talk to you, and about 30 military training centers just called asking for your contact."
Miller stepped forward, red-faced. "This was a private session. Those videos are unauthorized." "Actually, sir," Captain White cut in, "under new transparency rules, soldiers can record evaluations that affect their careers. This was completely within regulations. And," he paused, "the Inspector General wants to speak to you about your methods." The room went quiet again. Lisa stood in the center, realizing this fight had just changed everything, not just for her, but for every soldier watching.
The fight was over, but the noise did not stop. Word raced across Fort Adams faster than a jeep on an open road. By evening, clips of Lisa Ray dropping 5 men in seconds were everywhere. Some videos were shaky. Some had slow motion. All of them told the same story. A small woman with calm eyes took down giants and never raised her voice. Lisa sat on a bench in the gym that night, her hands still, her mind not still at all. She did not feel proud, she felt alert. She knew victory can turn into trouble if you are not careful. She also knew the system did not like to be embarrassed. Her phone buzzed. Captain Laura White again. "Sergeant Ray, you're needed in the command office at 0800. Defense Headquarters wants a call. The office of the Defense Chief, too. And the Inspector General team arrived on base." Lisa looked at the clock. It was going to be a long day. Morning came. In a small conference room, this time with the door open and cameras welcome, Lisa sat across from 3 quiet people with notepads. The lead man spoke in a clear voice. "We're here to ask about yesterday. Did Colonel Frank Miller pressure you to fight?" Lisa told the truth, simple and straight. She said how she was asked to give up her gear. She said how the 5 men were set in a circle. She said she felt it was not a fair test, but she chose to face it. She did not add heat. She did not add drama. She just gave facts. The next meeting was a video call with Defense Headquarters. A woman with gray hair and sharp eyes spoke first. "Sergeant Ray, we saw the footage. We want to learn from you. Would you be willing to teach?" Lisa blinked. "Teach who, ma'am?" "Everyone," the woman said. "Units across the country, maybe more." The third call came from the office of the Defense Chief. Different face, same message. They wanted a plan. They wanted a course. They wanted a way to turn smart fighting into standard training. Lisa said yes, but only if it was done right. Safe, tested, real. By noon, the base felt different. Men and women Lisa had never met stopped her in the hall. Some saluted. Some just nodded with quiet respect. A young private whispered, "Thank you," and hurried away. Word travels fast in a place like this, but respect travels faster. Not everyone was smiling. Colonel Miller kept his door closed. He did not look at her when they passed in the corridor. Lisa did not look at him either. She had no gloating in her. She knew the fight was bigger than one man. Still, the Inspector General team asked more people more questions. Patterns began to show. Complaints. Old stories. Things that had been laughed off were now written down. 2 days later, a formal notice went out. Colonel Frank Miller was reassigned to logistics. Quiet. Far from command. No speech, no ceremony. Just a box, a handshake, and a ride to the gate. The base kept moving. It always does. That same week, orders arrived for Lisa. Promotion to Master Sergeant. New post. Director of Advanced Combat Training, Western Command. The stripe felt heavy on her sleeve. Not heavy like a burden. Heavy like duty. She called her dad that night. "Danny Ray," he answered, voice rough and warm. "I saw the video, kid." "Don't call me kid," she said, and they both laughed. He grew quiet. "Your grandma would be proud. She always said the river does not beat the rock by hitting hard. It wins by never stopping." "I know," Lisa said. She could hear Evelyn Ray's soft voice in her memory, guiding her small hands through the first Aikido steps in a living room with no carpet and lots of love. The next phase began at dawn on a dusty training field. The 5 men who once stood against her walked toward her as allies now. Bill Harris, Mark Allen, Tom Baker, Jim Carter, and Luke Torres. Harris carried cones. Allen set out mats. Baker checked the first aid kit twice.
Carter stretched his shoulder and grinned. Torres, face healed but eyes steady, gave a small nod. "You still good to train?" Lisa asked. Torres smiled. "Best way to learn is to fail fast. Yesterday I learned a lot." They formed her first training team. Not as props, as partners. They tested each drill, broke it, fixed it, and tested it again. They argued without ego. They took notes. They timed and retimed. They measured angles with tape and chalk. They built a course where technique beat size, where balance beat rage, where calm beat noise. Lisa kept the rules simple. She taught the palm strike to the chest that stops the breath without breaking a rib. She taught the knee that meets the face only when safe to do so in training, with pads and control. She taught the hip throw that needs no strength, only timing. She said read feet, not fists. She said eyes lie, feet tell the truth. The first class filled in minutes. The second class had a waiting list. Videos from the field spread again, but this time they were official and clear. Other bases called, then special units called. A group from overseas asked for the syllabus. People began to call it the Ray method, though Lisa never liked the sound of her own name and lights. She just called it good fighting. One afternoon, a young woman stood at the edge of the mat, hands clenched, breathing fast. Private Amy Brooks, small, determined, scared. "Step in," Lisa said. "They say I'm too small," Amy blurted. "They say I won't last in real combat." Lisa looked around the room. Harris stood tall but quiet. Allen leaned on the wall. Baker tapped his knee brace. Carter bounced on his toes. Torres watched with a coach's patience. Lisa pointed to the biggest pad in the room. "Hit that," she said. Amy hit it. "Weak." She winced. "Again," Lisa said. Amy hit it again, stronger. Then again. Then again. Lisa moved closer and showed her the angle of the wrist, the line of the elbow, the point of the shoulder. She guided Amy's feet into a better stance. "Now breathe," Lisa said. "Slow in, fast out. Don't chase power. Let power find you." Amy hit the pad and it jumped. Heads turned. The room smiled. Harris clapped once, a big sound. "You're not too small," Lisa said. "You were just aimed wrong." At graduation that month, the training field was full. Dust lifted under boots. Sun cut across the mats. Lisa stood with her team and watched pairs move through drills like water over stones, clean, smooth, controlled. No showing off, no yelling, just skill. Captain Laura White read the new orders. More classes, more instructors, a budget that would matter. The Defense Headquarters memo called the program a model for modern close combat. Lisa folded the paper and put it in her pocket. Paper was paper. What mattered were the people. After the ceremony, Lieutenant Paul Scott limped over, the man whose life she had saved years ago with a long shot in the dark. His hair was gray on the sides now. "Still saving lives, Sergeant," he said. "Master Sergeant," Harris corrected, with a grin. Scott smiled. "Master Sergeant then. Proud of you." When the field was empty and the sun sat low, Lisa stayed behind. She walked the lines of chalk and cones like a farmer walking rows. She touched a mat edge and thought of every fight that ends 1 second sooner because someone learned the right move here. She thought of the clip that started it all and how quickly the world can twist a story. She knew trends fade. She knew fame fades. Skill does not. A shadow fell beside her. "Torres." "Are you all right?" he asked. "I'm good," she said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About the next class," she said with a small smile. "We're just getting started." He nodded and walked off to lock the gear shed. Night crept in. The base lights flicked on. Somewhere a truck hissed. Somewhere else a door slammed. Fort Adams kept breathing. A soft voice from the past seemed to ride the warm air. Evelyn Ray again. The river wins, not by force, but by patience. Lisa looked at the mats one last time. She did not feel like a legend. She felt like a teacher. She felt ready. "Size isn't strength," she whispered, the words meant for every new recruit who would ever doubt themselves. "Skill is strength. Calm is strength. Belief is the strongest weapon you can carry."
Then she walked off the field, steady and sure, already planning tomorrow.
If you were touched by this story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us in sharing good stories that matter. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.